The Fantasy Football Podcast on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network is brought to you by Shady Rays. SGPN is teaming up with Shady Rays for Shady May. Get 50% off your Shady Rays using promo code SGPN. And then go to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/shady for your chance to win $500. The SGPN fantasy football team is also giving away a Lamar Jackson jersey in the month of May. Leave a 5-star review on our Spotify or Apple podcast to enter. You can DM us your review at SGPN Fantasy on Twitter to confirm your entry. The winner will be selected May 31st. Degens assemble. Welcome to Fantasy Football Heroes and Villains presented by the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. I am your host, Justin Bruni. Joining me as always is Mr. Andrew, the TD King Raub. And tonight we have a very special guest, Mr. Davis Peng of the Fantasy Six Pack. How are we doing, gentlemen?
I'm good. I'm just excited to be here. Thanks for reaching out and having me on.
Always.
I'm just stoked to get drafted, man. It's BBM4.
Mania is here. Mania is here. Andrew, how are you doing, sir? I know you have some personal mania going on your side of things.
Yes, as you like to point out, the dynasty has grown in the Raub household. I did have my second young little man, Triton, and unfortunately, he did have to stay at the hospital. He's in the NICU, so it's just been a hectic couple days here. But I talked to him today. He told me it was cool if I did the podcast and try to win this $3 million. So I'm excited, man. Let's go.
Did he give you his picks? Our ADP heroes?
We talked a little best ball strategy the other day. It was funny. I was just talking to him, just holding him, and he's, just kind of looking at me. My wife's kind of looking at me as I'm talking strategy with him. I'm like, you don't get it. It's a lifestyle. Like, just let it alone.
Yeah, I got to imagine he's going to have some good advice, having that keen sight of his. We are here to do some Best Ball Mania 4. Very, very excited. I'm going to go ahead and just peek my head in here because obviously this is going to take up a good amount of our time. So, and it's $25. I just lost another $25. Don't want to jump in that one, boys.
All right.
This happened to me the other night.
I was say, Andrew, your first Manny will be Archie Manning or Arch Manning.
Go ahead and jump in now, boys. 10 more, 9 more.
Yep, 9 more.
You in, Davis?
Oh, let me hop in right now.
Yeah, I was gonna say we got 8 more.
So 8 more.
No.
This happened to me the other night on our first episode. I was the last one in. It started immediately. No opportunity to get out. This one, it had one more to go, and I probably could have pulled out really quick, but I was just not fast on the fingers. So
do this.
Your pullout game was not strong, as they say.
My pullout game was not strong. I will also be having a kid here pretty soon. Speaking of my pullout game not being strong, so a couple more months here, and I'll be right there joining the father party.
Yeah, it's a wild ride to say the least.
Although I will say, Andrew, you've caused a stir in my house because now that your child has come early, my wife is convinced like it's any day now. So,
well, tell her my first one was full term and didn't even want to come out. We had to have a C-section to get him out because he didn't want to come out.
She said, she's like, you realize like 7 weeks early is like 2 weeks from now. It's like, damn it.
Yeah,
who knows? Who knows what will happen? We'll see.
It can happen, unfortunately.
All right. Let's see where we're at here. Should be pretty close. I'm gonna get it up here on the board.
Yep. Yeah. Say one more to start. So Davis, why don't you tell the good people listening that may not, know who you are or follow, what you do? Why don't you tell people a little bit about what you do?
Oh man, good thing. So I write for Fantasy Six Pack. It's primarily where I write. I also write for Stochastic on the Stochastic. Also, I had some good picks. If you wanted to see what I wrote for them last year, you can check out their website. It was a free articles. And then I also do a show with the Road to 150 with Hope, which is basically maxing out, man. Like that's what we are. We're DJ, we're grinders. You guys know this. SGPN is all about the degenerates. It's maxing out, getting big down there. And that's what I mostly do. We're best ball content mainly, a little bit of redraft. I like what I like, but I suck at dynasty. So this is from full management to no management. This is where I'm at. Multiple finalists from Puppy 1, Puppy 3, both years. 30% advance rates, just fun things like that. I think I'm pretty good at this. Who knows though? We'll see this year if I can repeat again.
What is your handle, Davis?
He's in the 7th spot.
It's Jumanji 202. I'm from the 7th.
Gotcha. Okay, it's Jumanji 202.
It's a name that I've been rocking for longer than I should, and I'm just. I have asked UD if I can change it, and they said no. They were like,
not if you want to keep your badge, pal.
So let's see. So Justin, you were in the 1 spot, got the old influencer 101 as Pete Overs it says.
Yes, sir.
Davis in the 7, and I am rocking the 11 spot.
Yeah.
So
and we're off like a herd of turtles. I've already got my share of Justin Jefferson. Let's ride.
I think I'm in like 16, 17 of these, and I've only had 101.
Oh, damn. I haven't had one in a while. I have not had one for a long, long while. But again, now that I have one, it's time for a Vikings build. Let's go. Wheels up. Uh-oh. Okay, I was going to say it was clicking back and forth there between being on the clock and not on the clock. So we got Jefferson, Chase, McCaffrey, Kelsey at 4.
Man, that's something I wanted to ask you guys about because I did one of these earlier and was in the 5 spot. Kelsey fell to me, and I just picked him because I was hoping to get Mahomes, which did not work out. But how do you guys feel about Kelsey going so high? I mean, it's hard to pick a tight end that high. Kelsey's kind of a unicorn there, but it just feels dirty to pick a tight end so early because there's so many values at tight ends as you go through the draft. So how do you guys feel about Kelsey, in the 4 or 5 spot?
Oh God, must show my age. So Gronk, right? Like Gronk is like the round 1 guy we hold to epitome. Kelsey's a 2nd. And here's the kicker I always have about any tight end that is like the guy. It's hard to repeat certain numbers, right? Like what makes Kelsey so special is he's basically like wide receiver 1 in a tight end. Is it repeatable for Kelsey? Yes. But the problem with Kelsey is always kind of like, we flounder on him the most. Like, 1 year he's a 2nd round guy. 1 year he's a 1st round guy. 1 year he's a 2nd round guy. And I don't like my 1st round picks to be those guys. I want guys who I just believe are 1st rounders. Like, Stephon Diggs. I'm not a Diggs guy, but I'll admit he's a 1st rounder. A back-to-back 1st round. Tyreek Hill should have been a back-to-back 1st rounder, right? Devontae Adams so Kelsey's one of the guys I think fluctuates. And it's because sometimes he has down years and you feel double the worse about a bad Kelsey pick. But you can't go 3 tight end. You really can't go, Kelsey into a Waller pick because, it's weird. So when you have a bad Kelsey year, it's utterly terrible. Like your draft is basically done, unless you get lucky and find the next Dawson Knox that year, which is once again a crapshoot. So I'm not a fan of it. I think you're giving a lot of value. Is it a bad pick? No. But I feel like when you're mad about that pick, you're really mad about it. Does that make sense? Yeah.
It does. No, it does. And that's kind of what I was thinking too, is like, man, if Kelsey hits, it's a fine pick. If not, then it's like, you think to yourself, I knew I shouldn't have did it and I still did it anyway. But again, it's Kelsey. I mean, it's the name value. It's what he does in that offense. It's, Patrick Mahomes is an awesome quarterback to have as the guy throwing him the ball. So it's not a bad pick. I just was curious, but you mentioned Dawson Knox. So let me ask you guys, obviously Dalton Kincaid coming to town now. So how do you guys feel about the Bills tight ends? What's your strategy with that? Are you still thinking Dawson Knox is the guy to get this year? Or do you think Kincaid can possibly, step in and kind of take over that role?
I think they're both going to middle each other until you see like an injury, whether it be from one of those two or one of their receivers. But I don't think that any one of them is going. I think that they, could boom or bust back and forth and kind of share like, a tight end 1 position, like tight end 11 through 13, on and off. But if they're both there and they're both healthy, it's going to be a tough situation to read.
Yep.
Dawson Knox is interesting. So I looked at Dawson Knox's film from every year he's played and what his stat line is. And God, I feel doubly embarrassed because we did a show right before the draft hit. And I was like, yeah, keep an eye on Dawson Knox. He's still a guy I'm targeting in BBM4. And then they were like, with the 1st round, we're going to select, a tight end. I was like, oh, come on. That's really blew me up. I think that rookie tight ends always have it hard. It's very rare for most rookie tight ends to break, right? Even the best of it with good situations like Pat Fryermuth is someone I think was like what we should expect from a good tight end year, right? Pat F had a great rookie year. Uncontested though, with Big Ben, who loves his tight end, loves short dink and passes. I think when you look at someone like Kincaid and Knox, I think you're looking at them play two different roles. You're looking at one guy to play the flats, the outs, the ins on short under 6-yard targets, A dot targets, like on the A dot, and you're looking at Knox as a 10 A dot guy. So I think Knox is more of a down the field tight end, and you see it a lot for his type of plays that he makes. You know, he was never good on a slant type. He's a guy like 10 yards down, 12 yards down. His yards per reception the last 2 years before last year was 12 or better. So he's a down the field person, I think. So I do think they cut into each other, but it's not as detrimental to Knox's projections. Like I still think Knox is still a 600-yard guy, 6 touchdown. Any more, any less, that's on you. But I think that he's still in that stat line.
Yep.
Whoa. This guy in the 2 spot went Fields and then Lamar Jackson. A little bold. Someone should tell him the Superflex drafts are over.
I make fun of those kind of guys all the time, and I get a lot of crap for that.
Well, his name is Hot Dog Finger, so he doesn't have great hands either.
I don't know if I would do all that.
I started off with Justin Jefferson, Derrick Henry, gonna probably be my hero RB. And then T. Higgins, who I haven't really gotten a lot of as like a naked share, a lot of stacking with him. So I'm interested to see what I can do there. I'm a little bit more interested in him over Chris Olave and Devonta Smith with the weapons that have been added to both the Saints and Eagles offenses. That was really the tiebreaker there for me. You saw Hayden Hurst leave that Carolina, that Bengals offense. And I feel like that could open things up a little bit more. I know they went out and grabbed Irv Smith, but can't trust them to stay healthy.
I hate this pick the most. I hate this portion of the round because do I want to grab Jacobs, Ramondre, Etienne? Like, I don't really feel good about any of those guys.
Yeah.
And I'm going to get a lot of crap for this pick, but I'm just going to go down.
Let's see it. I bet you get a lot of love from us.
Down and just grab.
I'm a Najee guy. I like Najee a lot.
I actually think Najee has top. I would say 8 upside personally.
Yeah, agreed. They ran the ball a lot to finish the season last year.
Yeah,
he lacks a lot of bursts, and I think that's what kills people for him. It's all like, well, you're never going you're not getting a Dalvin Cook 90-yard 1 touchdown hit.
Yeah, but he can get 5 or 6 targets a game easy.
You're buying volume. ETN I think is down right now. I think Ramondre is more down than we expect. Like people are going to make fun of James Robinson, right? Like that's just what we do.
Right. But he's
going to like James Robinson eats 8 touchdowns, right? Like how goofy are we going to feel when he eats like 6 touchdowns this year? And that just kills like all of Ramondre's upside, right? Like Ramondre can have 1,200 yards and like 5 touchdowns. And like, we're not good with a 3rd round pick. DK Metcalf is interesting. Kenneth Walker is basically kind of dead in the water. It's like, I hate this part of the draft. I would love to be on the ends, the front end or the butt end, because I feel like I'm not losing EDP value drafting at 38, 39 versus if I'm drafting at 31 and I have to choose between DK Metcalf right now, which is like really hard to do.
I was actually thinking DK there. I know it
has to feel, which is tough.
Yeah, you have to feel a little bit lower on him with the Jackson Smith pick, but I just feel so good about that offense. I feel a lot better about the Seahawks after them getting Charbonnet and JSN. It doesn't look good on paper for fantasy, but I think that the results that they're going to get as a football team, I think honestly at the end of the year, we're going to be happy with what we are getting of our shares of that offense.
I think the one interesting thing about DK that I think a lot of people like to discount is actually how good. I don't think Geno is that good, but how good that offense can be ran. Right? I was looking at Kirk Cousins numbers a couple years ago for like his 2016 numbers, and everyone's like, "Well, there's no way Geno can do good numbers like 4,500 yards." But here's the one thing that like the people said last year: he can't do good with Tyler Lockett, DK Metcalf. And there's no way DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett, 60% of target shares. That's what the Seahawks have always done, though. They've always overloaded their wide receivers. Doug Baldwin was over-targeted. DK Metcalf over-targeted. I can't think of anybody that wasn't like the first 2 receivers. I don't know the 3rd and 4th for half of the rosters for the Seattle Seahawks. This will probably be one of the few years you'll know who all 3 of the receivers are, like in a good way. So like to get back to Kirk Cousins, like Kirk Cousins was a guy that we didn't view too greatly, but he's had a 5,000 yard season before passing.
Mm-hmm.
Like he threw like for 4,900 yards before because he just had 3 great weapons. And I think this is one of those teams that, DK Metcalf is probably overpriced a little bit, but they don't want him to run like certain routes. They just want him to do nines, fades, maybe comeback routes, but they don't want him over the middle. They want him post, that kind of stuff. So I think if you look at him like a Deshaun Jackson type guy, but bigger,
Mm-hmm.
you can see all three of them get maybe 1,000 to 800 yards each, right? I mean, the only person
the 800 is definitely in the wheelhouse. I think that with the commitment to Charbonnet, I feel like they're going to run the ball a fair amount too. So I think 800 is definitely in the wheelhouse. But I mean, a booming season, the thousands well in the someone just sniped me. Hawkinson.
I think we
thousands
see
well in play.
We see like 2 1,000 yard seasons and like an 800 yard season because there's no way they're fluctuating a 4th or a 5th receiver in there. Like who are they going to put in there? Like who's even Dwayne Eskridge? They're just going to float him a little bit harder. Like so, These guys will be hyper targeted. We saw this before with, like I said, 2016 Kirk Cousins had Pierre Garçon, Jamison Crowder, Jordan Reed, Vernon Davis, and there was one more guy, Deshaun Jackson. All those guys had like 1,800 yards apiece. And those weapons are nowhere near as good as the 3 weapons they have now on the Seattle Seahawks. Although I will say though, at pick 3, I don't want a 1,000-yard receiver. Like I want more than 1,000 yards. So it's a tough call there.
Yeah.
No, absolutely.
Who do you guys like so far in your guys' like current drafts? I mean, how many drafts have you done?
I'm total all in. I'm probably pushing close to 50 now between all the different formats.
Oh, nice.
I mean, a lot of late round guys for me, like those early on guys like Chuba Hubbard, Michael Carter. I'm getting off of them now. I'm getting less exposure, but those were definitely some later round guys that I really liked early on. Deontay Johnson's value is just stupid. I've moved him up, I think, like 19 or 20 spots in my best ball rankings. Underdog had him at like, I want to say it was like 30 or 40 something. It was just ridiculous seeing him constantly being discounted.
Yeah, that's fair.
Any other ones that I missed on, Andrew, that we've been consistently hitting?
No, I mean, another guy for me that I've drafted a lot of because I like his value is James Cook. They didn't really add anybody that scares me at all either, even with Latavius Murray going there now. So that's still somebody that I'm focusing on trying to draft, especially when I go 0 RB. I just think that he has a very, very large upside, and that's somebody I'm going to try to get in this draft since I do have the stack of Allen and Diggs already.
Right.
I think it's kind of because that's funny because I'm a Harris guy. I've always liked Damien Harris, and I think you're right. Like James Cook is discounted in a weird way. You're talking about like this was something with the Bills. People like never draft a bill above 100. Like every bill is like at ADP 100 or later the last like 4 years. I think it's a little interesting. I find it weird that they are discounted as hard as they are. I do think there's a lot of value in both those guys though. So,
yeah.
I wanted Keenan Allen right before me.
Damn. Yeah, the Commandos backfield as well. I've been getting a lot of like Gibson and Robinson just stacked with each other because I do a lot of 0 RB. So in the later rounds, like they're waiting for you at a turn to just grab them both if you're not really exposed to running back.
Yeah. Davis, who's your what's your favorite landing spot for one of those rookie running backs?
Oh man, the rookie running backs are really weird this year, right? You're talking about like Jahmyr Gibbs to the Lions, Chase Brown to the Bengals. I want to say if I had to like pick a guy, I think it's Jeff Wilson. Sorry, not Jeff Wilson. Kendra Miller.
Mm-hmm.
Kendra Miller is like in this weird predicament that I think Alvin Kamara gets suspended, and I, if he doesn't, then fine, whatever. But he's with Jamal Williams, who I think is great in real life, probably, and a good player as in this aspect of coach's guy, knows football, great probably football IQ and etc. But he's never been the greatest runner. Kendra Miller is in a situation where he's likely to be a 1-2 punch, and he might start off slow for the first half of this year, but I think by second half of the season, it's going to look really good. I just can't see here's the thing. Alvin Kamara is already semi banged up every single year. And he's already on a big contract, so they could dump him. So I feel like either they keep Alvin Kamara and Miller, or it's gonna be Williams and Miller. And I think that no matter what, Miller is like this guy for this team. So I'm on him a little bit more than I am for a lot of the other rookies. Like I know people are like in on Gibbs, but Gibbs without high value touches scares me. Like we know what David Montgomery is. People want to make fun of Montgomery, but he breaks tackles, he breaks arm tackles, he trucks a bunch of dudes, and he, is the type of guy to finish with 1,300 yards, like all scrimmage and 10 touchdowns or 8 touchdowns. And then what does Gibbs get? Right, like 4 touchdowns and like 60 yards receiving. Like that's not good for me. It's not good for anybody. So I just really like what Miller's situation is. I think he has a chance of high value touches possibly in the future. I think by second half of the season.
Yeah.
No. Yeah, great. That's. So I think he replaces like Jamal. Like I think he just does replace him in both ways, either or. If Jamal's the guy, then he'll probably be the pass catching guy. If Alvin Kamara is the guy, then he's probably the goal line guy. So you're winning either way for how late he's going. Oh man, DeAndre Swift really moved up these last few days. How do you guys
it helps when you get on a good offense. I mean, I guess Detroit wasn't terrible offensively last year. They just hated him, just disrespected the man. I love the Chris Godwin value.
Yeah, I love Chris Godwin and Mike Evans right now. I think they're just this year's DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett.
Yeah, I don't love Evans. I have him probably down to like wide receiver 31 right now because I don't know. I don't know if he can survive with those quarterbacks. I feel like they're still going to try to play the market. Like I still feel like they could maybe be involved for like a Carson Wentz because I mean, I'm really not excited to see that offense with Trask or Baker Mayfield. Like
I hate Baker. I think Baker's absolutely just junk. But the one thing I do like about Baker is he plays hero ball. Right?
Yeah.
Like you may hate him in like your team in real life. You may hate him in whatever, but like hero ball players, I love. I want bad Ryan Fitzpatrick going out there, throwing the ball 50-50 contested. And I think Mike Evans wins those kind of touches, like those kind of games. Mike Evans has played with just junk QBs his entire career up into Tom Brady, right? I know we love Jameis Winston because it's a cute story of 30 for 30. But that's not a good stat line. Like no one's ever propping anyone up for 30 for 30. Jameis Winston.
I didn't love that. I think I lost to him actually in the finals that year in fantasy. Like you know how angry I was watching that shit.
Yeah, it's absolutely just junk. Like Jameis Winston has just proven that he's just crappier Ryan Fitzpatrick because Ryan Fitzpatrick basically took his job, right? So now you're with Baker, you're with Trask, whatever situation you're in. Mike Evans is borderline QB proof. He's played with like Mike Glennon. He's played with like all sorts of just crap. And he's just done it. And the one thing I think Mike Evans has over a lot of these receivers in pick 70, 80, 90 is he has red zone threat. Right? Like he has, hey man, I'm just gonna give you the ball and I hope you get me a touchdown. Like any Mike Evans game, it's like either 0 yards or 80 and a touchdown.
Yeah, I was looking at him because that was a guy I was actually staying away from. He's really inefficient in the red zone. Like if he could clean that up, I think that his value will increase substantially. But over his career, he's just been so inefficient within the red zone. I mean, obviously between the 20s, he's good, and that's where a lot of his touchdowns come from. But man, in the red zone, he sucks. He's so inefficient.
In the 5, it's rough.
Yeah.
But I'm talking about like he said, mostly I look about the 20. I just feel like he just gets a shot. I was watching his games last year, and I was like, was he bad? And I just feel like he wasn't. I think he was good enough. And you watch a lot of like Brady being inconsistent. You watch a lot of Brady being kind of bad and a lot of things like that. And I think it affected a lot of Mike Evans' numbers. Mike Evans is still a bully. Like he still bullies men he bullied, Panthers all up and down the field. And we make fun of him for that missed catch where he just didn't catch that ball because, he just dropped it. But like, look how much yardage he had on that guy to begin with, So I always look at that and go, he still got it. And he's one of those, like, he could be your 5th receiver, your 6th receiver, mostly your 5th, right? Your 4th to 5th receiver that can leapfrog the other receivers on your team. And that's why I like him.
I was just considering him, and he would have been my 5th.
Exactly. And that's why I like him. Honestly, I would have taken him right there. He would have been my 5th. But he has a shot.
You had Godwin. That'd been great.
Yeah. I love taking that combo. And that's why I like him. He's your 5th receiver that can leapfrog any of the top 4 you have.
That's a good point. That's a good point. Like I said, I've knocked him down my rankings just because the trust level is just not as high, obviously, as years prior with Brady.
Of course.
Oh man, I was really feeling about going Jordan Addison. I thought he'd come back to me. Damn. Recency bias. Damn.
It's hard to like Evans. I don't disagree with anyone on that regard because it's
Right.
like he's not a speedster. He's built off his physicality, and once he loses that, he's gonna fall off a complete cliff. I just think we're not there yet. He could be like he's like probably like our version of Brandon Marshall, right? Like he's this generation's Brandon Marshall, like just this hulky dude that does hulky dude things, maybe a little bit less finesse. But he catches 6 to 8 touchdowns a season, and he's probably helping you in 6 to 8 games out of your flex, minimally.
Yeah, if there's like 6 to 8 games where he could get Brandon Marshall 30% target share, that'd be great. That'd be awesome.
I mean, who's wide receiver 3 on this team, right? Or tight end on this team? No one really relevant.
Don't be so mean to Russell Gage. He's trying to make a name for himself down there still. I know he was
recruited
recruited
last
by
year,
Tom.
man. I tried to love him last year. It was hard.
Well, Tom was like the big co-signment. Like apparently Tom wanted Russell Gage from something that he saw, I guess, in like their matchup when he was playing against Atlanta the year prior. So that was like all him. So now that GM Tom is gone, who knows what'll happen with him? I don't know.
Yeah.
K. Dotton too. Don't love K. Dot or don't hate K. Dotton with a potential Trask or a Baker Mayfield.
Yeah, exactly. It's just one of the things I like to look at. Like I look at where he fits in a lot of drafts. He fits as 4 to 5. And I don't think there's many good 4 to 5 receivers that are better than him in that regard. And that's why I take him. That's why I take too much of him sometimes.
Right.
I'm just looking for guys that like have that potential to kind of just ruin my season or ruin somebody else's just randomly. And I think Mike Evans is like that guy. Oof, I'm in a weird spot right now.
Yeah. Andrew, you want to hit a quick word from the old Shady Rays?
I do. Let me get prepared here real quick.
Oh yeah, right.
All right. Got my Shady Rays on. Feel like I do the read better with it. Shady Rays is teaming up with SGPN for Shady May. Not only do you get an amazing 50% off, but you also have a chance to win $500. Shady Rays has you covered from the sun to the slopes with premium polarized shades, customizable snow goggles, and much more. Shady Rays has durable frames and extremely clear optics for outdoor adventures. If you don't love them, exchange for a new pair or return them for free within 30 days. There's no risk when you shop with Shady Rays. Their team always has your back. Go to shadyrays.com and use promo code SGPN for 50% off 2+ pairs of polarized sunglasses. Then take your receipt to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/shady for your chance to win the $500 Shady May contest.
And the SGPN fantasy football team is giving away a Lamar Jackson jersey in the month of May. Leave a 5-star review on our Spotify or Apple podcast to enter. You can DM us your review at SGPN Fantasy on Twitter to confirm your entry. Winner will be selected May 31st. And I am on the clock. I'm stacking up Mr. Jayon Dotson with Mr. Terrence McLaurin.
Great pick.
So I have a question
Unbiased.
for you. I saw that you grabbed Kirk a little early on the ADPs. Probably about 24
I have him at
picks,
QB8, so I just wanted to make sure I got the stack.
which I think that's fair. Do you believe just pushing him would have been the way to go? Because you have Justin Jefferson. Like, who else is going to grab him, right? Is it the Hawkinson guy? Is it the Addison guy? I mean, do you think that like he would have just kept pushing because you are the Jettis owner?
Yeah, I just also feel like a lot of teams like to play spoiler and they like to snipe. At least that was my experience early on. So yeah, I guess like when the big board was out and I would be, having a few of those early 101s, or even when I would have Hawkinson and I would be trying to push it as close as I could, I would get picked off. And that was absolutely happening more so in the Superflex. So maybe that's just, again, some more recency bias for me from that experience. But yeah, I'm not afraid to pull somebody up for correlation. Like I said, I have Kirk at QB8, so I'm still pretty high on him. Not somebody that's great for your football team, but really good for fantasy. Like I did a write up on him a couple of weeks back for ADP Heroes, and if you look at the quarterbacks that are being drafted ahead of him, he's consistently scored higher than them in the previous 3 years. So like total like underdog points is what I was going off of. So there's just a lot of guys that are ahead of him and in ADP that I still feel comfortable have a very good chance of finishing behind him come total scoring at the end of the year.
Oof, that pick stings. I really wanted Michael Thomas to follow me. I think he had a shot to follow me too. Oh well.
Definitely a name I was drafting more so at the beginning of the year was Michael Thomas. I've tuned down my shares a little bit.
I'm grabbing him a ton if I can. I think he's a guy that's probably should be 20 picks higher. He should be in the 80 zone. Like if we should be deciding between him and Jahan Dotson, like I will probably take Michael Thomas in the future.
You think Michael Thomas will actually play this year?
I think he will. I tweeted a little about this before and I've spoken on it. Like out of all the teams to sign him, you think the Saints would be the last, right? Like you would think like the team that just paid this guy just a ton of money to sit and rehab would be like, hey man, this ain't working out. We look at all the 5th-year extensions that got declined this week, right? Every single one of them. It was like half the draft was declined. Half the players did not get re-signed. There's a lot of good stuff going on. So it tells me a lot when the guy that feels burned, the organization that's like, well, we're in cap hell or like bring him back. Like they must have saw
again.
Yeah, like they must know something that like that he's worth like this pain, this suffering that they're going through. And Michael Thomas is QB proof. Let's be realistic. He's played with 4 quarterbacks, and good to all 4 of them. Taysom Hill, Jameis Winston, Teddy Bridgewater, Drew Brees. People are gonna point to Drew Brees like, oh, like see, like that's why he's good. And it's like, no, he's been good with Taysom Hill. Is he older? Sure, but he's not a physical dominator. He's not Des Bryant. He's not, like I said earlier, Mike Evans that has to beat you by punishing you with his size and his body. He's just a good player. He came back last year, played 3 games, and dominated in all 3 games. His first 2 games, he had 3 touchdowns.
Unlimited snap counts as well. He barely played in those snap games. Counts
against guys like AJ Terrell. Like, what else did he really need to do? Right? Like, I get it.
Well, stay healthy would have been great. That would have been a good answer.
Stay healthy would have been great. But at pick 100, pick 110 when he was originally going, going to the same team that is like, yo, don't do that to us again. They, it tells me a lot. It tells me everything I need to know that he's probably going to play this year. Yeah. And is that a bad bet? Fine. But I'm not the one paying him $12 million this year. So it tells me quite a bit. I want to take a shot on him. I do need to lower my expectations of like 30%. But I think when I look at it, he's going to be a guy at pick 80, in about 2 months, month and a half. And we're going to be deciding, like I said, between him and Jahan Dotson or him and George Pickens. Derek Carr and Michael Thomas or Kenny Pickett and George Pickens. Like, I'm like, who do we feel better about when you put those names together? And the answer is like, I feel better with Thomas, like 10 out of 10 times. Because he's going to get enough targets. He's just that good.
We know he's that good. He's like our whole argument is that he's just got to stay on the field. And believe me, I've been banging the drum like as loud and proud as I can. I've been banging the MT drum, but I need some backup. I need some help, Mike Thomas.
If he was a round 5 guy, I wouldn't do it. Round 6 guy, I wouldn't do it. But you're talking, like I said, pick 80, 90, 100. I mean, what can you? It is what it is. You keep your exposures under 20%, 25 on your guys you love, and that's fine. Because people lose people all the time through the season. I want the guy that's going to boost my team, not be a flat. So like, and I talk about this, like he's coming up on the right now, like Juju. Like Juju Smith-Schuster is a guy that people drafted in the 5th round last year, 4th, 5th. And then like, what did he really do for most teams? Right? There's a lot of dead picks besides being injured. Some guys just don't contribute and they're dead. Like, so I just how I feel about them. So like, there's a lot of guys that just don't contribute, and you get them late. I was laughing at Mike's comment.
I was laughing at Mike's comment. Did you see that?
Yeah, I was laughing at it too. That's why I look at it.
I was doing some strolling, making some mistakes.
Mike Raub in the chat. He says Andrew has had 2 kids since Michael Thomas was good.
It's
That's-
a
Here's
fair
the thing, I
point.
don't disagree with that. It's true. It's always going to be risky. And,
Uh.
but like I said, it's one of those. As my sixth to seventh receiver, my sixth receiver, or even my fifth in some cases. This how many of these guys leapfrog CD Lamb? How many of these guys leapfrog? Brandon Ayuk, Keenan Allen, Mike.
Yeah.
There's not many of these guys that my sixth receiver that can do that, or my fifth receiver that can do that.
I just hate that he looks like he doesn't want to play football. Like last year, I feel like he definitely could have came back. I feel like he really upplayed the toe injury. I mean, like this man stubs his toe and he's out the entire season. Like, what are we doing?
Him and Will Fuller with his busted finger.
Like, what are they doing? It just like I hate drafting guys that I feel like aren't going to give it their all. And just I don't know. Michael Thomas has left a bad taste in my mouth. He has burned me multiple times. I do have a little exposure on him. I do think there is a case that he can be good. And I mean, like you said, like he's been good with bad quarterbacks. I don't think Derek Carr's a bad quarterback, but I mean, first year in the system, first year with the team, it's unseen. I know you're a big draft Derek Carr guy, even naked. So I think Derek Carr's
if there's somebody that can throw a slant, it's Derek Carr, man.
Yeah, I mean, so I see the case on Michael Thomas. I just hate that I feel like I can't trust him to even play ball. I really hope he does get on the field because last time we saw him really play, he was awesome. But damn, I don't know. In the back of my mind, I'm like, don't draft him. This guy has no heart for football anymore.
Yeah, and I've seen players like that, and I have had that same take for them. And Thomas is one of those guys I think like crosses my mind of like come on, man, like go out there and care a little bit, please.
Mm-hmm.
But like I said, I believe if a team had to pay him to do it, it's
Right.
it's them, right? Like you would think the Saints of all people would be like, nah, man, you can go, right? This would be like the Giants signed Kenny G again. You're gonna tell me you're not gonna be at least curious? Like they got burned from Kenny G hard. If they signed him again, I'd be like, what changed? Right? Like I have to contemplate it. And the difference between Kenny G and Michael Thomas is like Michael Thomas was actually elite. He was actually an elite talent. Kenny G got to play with Matthew Stafford, right? So
flooded with volume, yeah.
So I don't know. I'm a little bit interested on that portion. I feel like I can't dodge him as much as I didn't take him anywhere last year, by the way. Like I had no Michael Thomas. I was like, hey man, his news injury on his thing was lasted all the way to like August. That doesn't sound good. But which is the opposite of this year. There's no, hey, Michael Thomas like farted too hard and now has hemorrhoids. He can't play. Anything like that going on right now. So I always like to think of whatever that news and that narrative is going on. Like, is there just concern? Like Javonte Williams to like Breece Hall, right? Like we're hearing two different narratives of injuries. Completely different narratives for guys who took ACL injuries. Obviously, one's worse than the other, and we know that. But no one sounds good over for the Broncos. No one's all like, Javonte can start week 1. Oh my God, he's doing cuts. Like as long as I'm not seeing negative news, I'm happy with that.
We just saw Samaje go in round 10, which is incredibly high for him.
That is definitely a little high.
I've been taking quite a few shares of him in zero RB strategy, but not that early.
This
is why people get naked cars. Here we go.
Yeah.
I mean, he fell. Like I'm taking him.
Yeah.
He's trying to fall. I love Derek Carr, man. Like I don't think I like him much as a player, but I love him in fantasy. And probably for the wrong reasons. Wait 1 second.
He's just always at a discount. I mean, anyone that's at a discount and is somewhat semi-reliable, you're just going to be like, hey, that guy. Yeah, very appreciative of your value. Thank you.
People talk
Jordan
about
Love 2 picks later. Criminal. Yeah. Bury that man. Criminal.
I mean, he's like quarterback 19, right?
Who?
There's not many quarterbacks this season.
Who, Derek Carr or Jordan Love?
Falls off a cliff after Derek Carr.
Oh, yeah. I was going to say, I was like that was the cliff, literally. Like Jordan Love 2 picks later. That's absolutely insane.
Yeah, it's such a cliff. Like I'm done. I'm not taking my chances with Baker. I'm not taking my chances with Ryan Tannehill. Like Derek Carr is a huge cliff, and people talk about how bad he was last year. Like he performed the exact same numbers he did the year before,
right? With
a shittier coach, by all means. So props to him. I vote for Derek Carr every year. I think he's a great floor guy with 4 to 6 usable games, which is the opposite of Kirk Cousins. Kirk Cousins has like really bad floor, but like 10 top S games. I love combining guys like Cousins to Cousins Carr. I think Cousins Roger this year is going to be insane, and so that's why I don't. I agree with you, by the way, on Cousins. I I had a big article for Cousins last year. I'm propping him up again this year. I think he has a chance to repeat his 2016, 4,800 yards plus the touchdowns with like being like 30 again rather than 29.
Right.
I'm all for it, man. I think like Cousins and these guys are going to do so much better than taking Mahomes in the second.
So let's talk a little bit about build and construction of teams here. What's your preferred build or construction? In BBM4, like, are you going 2-6-8-2? Is there something that you prefer to end up with at the end? That you're kind of trying to construct it, or are you just letting the board tell you how you want to build your team?
So if I'm not drafting an elite tight end, which is probably like 80% of my drafts, it's always gonna end with 3 tight end. 2-6-7-3, 2-5-8-3, 3-5-7-3. I think those are where I live at. I tried to mix it up a lot last year with some 3-4-8-3s, and like it's a terrible build. Not because I don't believe 4 running backs can get it done. It's the way you have to draft to do like a 3-4-8-3. You have to take more running backs early. You pass up on tight end. You pass up on a lot of good value. I think this year could be a little bit different, but I love the 3-5-7-3. I think it's like the safest build. You can do almost anything with it besides maybe draft elites. And then 2-6-7-3 and then 2-5-8-3. I just love those builds. I feel like you play with a lot and you're playing the game the way it's meant to be played, using replacement points. Like replacement points are huge. I mean, if you're drafting Jalen Hurts, right? Like, what's the point of having a second quarterback? And it's true, like you do need a little bit of for your bye weeks, and maybe Daniel Jones goes off for like his crazy numbers, but on a week-to-week basis, it's like, why am I drafting a second quarterback if I believe Josh Allen, Jalen Hurts, or Patrick Mahomes are worth a second round pick? There should be almost no reason I'm grabbing anybody, right? And if I do grab somebody, I want someone that has the potential to beat them. And once again, like, who is those guys that has the potential to beat Jalen Hurts, Patrick Mahomes, and it's going to be Kirk Cousins, right? So I got to spend pick 15 on Jalen Hurts just to spend pick 90, 85 for Kirk Cousins. Like, it just seems like a weird value to do. So I live in a lot of those like upper mid quarterbacks, a lot of robust receivers, anchor running back, and dual, and Pat Crane's team, right? Dual elite court running back, and just punting my next 4 running backs or 3 running backs. I like those teams.
Yeah, I like that.
So 2-6,
I like that.
7-3, 2-6, 2-5-8-3, things like that. 3-5-7-3. What about you guys?
I mean, I usually like to stay in the 2-6-8-2, 2-5-8-3, something like that. I like to be well balanced. I'll never just go one quarterback. I don't think that that's a bad way to go about building something if you have one of these elite guys, but I just worry a whole lot, about injury. If they get injured, your team's completely busted. And I think drafting like that, that's kind of what you expect, right? Like, that person gets hurt, I'll use your Jalen Hurts example. If you just have Jalen Hurts, if he gets hurt, that team's busted anyway, most likely, because you probably, unless you took another elite quarterback, I mean, the odds are that you're really not going to be able to sustain a good season with one of these really late round guys, Kenny Pickett, Sam Howell, Mac Jones, whoever you're picking with that, if that's the way you build it. So I just prefer to stay balanced if at all possible.
And I think like the point was like, it's not about the pick itself. It's about the allocation of the pick. If Jalen Hurts was like pick 70, I would say, yeah, grab 3 quarterbacks, right? But like, he's picked like 15. Like you're basically saying this guy's going to have a great season. When your first picks should always be that I guarantee you this guy's going to be good. I know we can't say that in fantasy, but like that's what you're inherently saying when you're picking some person at the top of the board. So that's how I always have viewed it that way. And then so when I look at like you said with the taking the mid type level guys, it's like I believe that there's someone that could beat them, so I just get balances, right? That's I don't know. I just feel like it's a little interesting when you take all those. So you said 2 tight ends. Do you take elite tight ends then?
Yeah, I usually so I like the great or late. I usually try to take at least one elite guy and then wait. This build, I did it actually a little different. I took 2 guys. Now I stacked Trevor Lawrence with Evan Ingram, or else I wouldn't have done that. But like I took Kyle Pitts, and I'm probably not gonna draft Desmond Ritter because I already have Josh Allen and Trevor Lawrence. So it really depends. I don't feel like I need to stick to exactly what I want to do. I really let the board kind of tell me what to do. But yeah, I mean, I prefer to have 2, maybe 3 tight ends. I'll never go 4. I'm not going to go 4 quarterbacks, never going to go 4 tight ends. That's not really my thing. And again, I'm not a guy that really draft a whole lot of 3 QB builds either. I like to stay with the 2, regardless of who I really take, unless I really get boned and sniped, a whole lot, and I need to take 3 of the Kenny Pickett, the Sam Howell, the Mac Jones. Like then I'll take 3, but ultimately I like to take 2.
Yeah, I think that's 100% agreeable on that. I do think there's like a fine line of where I would take 3. A lot of my 3 quarterbacks start at Rodgers. Like if my first guy is Rodgers, Carr, then as much as I like both those guys in fantasy this year, my pick allocation is low, right? Like I'm paying nothing for these guys. So if I'm picking my first quarterback at 135, my next 2 quarterbacks can be Sam Howell, Mac Jones, Desmond Ritter, Matthew Stafford. Like it's cool, go 3, because you're not spending a lot on them. You must have spent a lot on something else, and I think that's where I look at it.
Yep.
I like to do the 3-5-8-2. With the last draft I did, I went Kelsey with my first pick, and I went tight end with my very last pick. And the tight end isn't coming to me, but I remember feeling like not bad about it with like just the late round tight ends that are available, especially in non-super flex. But I think what I really like about the 3 potential QB strategy is just these late round stacks that you can pick up. I just grabbed Sam Howell to pair with 3 Commander players. I had a run of Houston players where I went Singletary, Collins, Stroud, had Schultz with him back there. I feel like your stacking ability with a lot of these discounted players in the back end, especially some of these QBs, you're going to be able to make some bread on. So if you're expecting any high outcomes for some of these later round guys, like having their quarterbacks there for some of those dud potential Kirk Cousins weeks, I'm feeling pretty good about it.
Davis, let me ask you, obviously, they kind of threw us a curveball this year with how they are allocating all the money for Best Ball Mania. Is your focus going to still be on the playoffs and Week 17 correlation? Are you going to kind of middle yourself between all your drafts and kind of do a little bit of the, setting up teams for the playoffs as opposed to setting up teams for the regular season? Like, how are you viewing all this differentiating, allocation of money now?
I'm going to have such an unpopular opinion on this. I have the worst opinion for this. I don't care. Like, I don't care either way. I think good teams do good stuff, right? Like, every team has a bad week. Every team is going to do well. All I care about is the consistency of what my team is doing. And I know people are going to say, well, the stacks matter. And I do agree. The stacking matters a ton. Because when you stack, you're basically making a bet saying that this team's going to do X. It's going to be great. If I took 3 Vikings, I expect 3 Vikings to be relevant all season. Nothing involved with that. But one thing I've noticed, and I did a lot of like naked teams last year because sometimes I just take best value. Like if I can get the wide receiver 1 from every team, that's probably going to perform better than wide receiver 1, 2, and a tight end from a team, right? Like realistically, if I get like the 3 stars of each, it's going to be good, right? Let's be real. That's true. Like, but the one thing I always look at for that is like, if my team can consistently put up 128, 140, 150 a week, do I care if they have stacks? Probably not. I just care that their ranges are so good. And I had a team like this last year where the stack was simple. It was like just Kirk Cousins and Justin Jefferson, and eventually Hawkinson got traded to this team. And I think there was like one other minor stack there too. And the team put up like put up 2,002 points on the regular season. So in 14 weeks, they put up 2,000 points. It was the 3rd highest scoring Puppy 2 team in the entire Puppy 2. And it would have been like number 15 in BBM, right? Team makes it all the way to the finals, gets blown out right at the end of the semifinals. It loses by 1 catch. I lost by like half a point. So am I sour? Yes. Very sour. Team would have sucked anyways.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like,
I lost a couple $100. Not a big deal. But my thing, I look at this team as I go, and I looked at the numbers. Every week it was like averaging 140 plus. Do I care what stacks it had? No. I just care that this team was hitting every week for 17 weeks straight, 16 weeks straight, 140 points, 130 points. It was just, I think I had like one bad week, and this bad week was like 100, right? So this team was crushing, and that's all I care about. I just care about getting the team, and I do think something's fundamentally go with it, right? Stacking does come with there, but do I need 3 stacks to do that? No. I think I need 1 stack. I think narrowing maybe skinny stacks was good. Narrowing the right offenses, right team, right players. But I don't personally care to draft for one or the other. I think they coincide. If I have a top scoring team in regular season, I have to assume that it's going to do well in finals. If I do I need to correlate that a little bit? Possibly, because I said we are inherently going to stack anyways. I'm never going to, I say the word never, but odds are I'm not just going Justin Jefferson and not stacking, Kirk Cousins at some point. Or not, at least I'm not trying to, right? I think they go hand in hand at some point, but I think you're focusing on one over the other is once again missing the point of the format. The format is to be the best every week. What format changes that? I don't think there's a format that does. I don't think anyone in basketball says, "Hey man, you can do good, kind of good now, but really good later." It's can you team put up every week? And I think that's the heart of basketball. That's why we have replacement points. That's why we draft 7, 8 people at a position. You're just trying to get the best points out there.
Yep.
And none of us have a crystal ball to predict that. And I guess it's the whole thing. It's like we can't. So I'm just going to draft the best things to help this team get to 1,800 points. Which, if you need to know the numbers, I think that's like 128 points a week to get 1.5%, 1,800 points a week. 1,800 points by week 14. Yep. So how do I get a team to 128? And that's getting contribution points every single week as I do this.
It's a good way to look at it.
Yeah. And I know some people, like I get stacking for week 17. And that's all you're doing is you're narrowing your odds of failure. And I think that goes hand in hand with a good week every week.
Yep.
So it hasn't changed how I draft. But it does make me consider like I can't robust RB because I know robust RBs don't generally do the best. So there's some things I just can't do anymore if I want to meet in the middle for a lot of these things.
Yep. Right. Justin, do you want me to pay a bill here real quick?
Yep, good.
All right. Obviously, we are brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. Best Ball Mania 4 is here, and Underdog Fantasy is giving away $15 million in prizes. Plus, plenty of ways to win with NBA, NHL, and the MLB with their player prop parlays. Head over to UnderdogFantasy.com and use promo code SGPN for a 100% deposit bonus up to $100. That's UnderdogFantasy.com, promo code SGPN.
Don't miss your pick.
Yep, I know.
It's Kentucky Derby week and the notorious OTB, brought to you by the Sports Gambling Podcast Network for all your Triple Crown bets. Plus, leave a review for the show wherever you get your podcast between now and Belmont Saturday, June 10th, and you'll be entered into a drawing to win a canvas print of the Wolf's one-of-a-kind Fallen Bob painting. It's post time. All right, and we're back in. Where are we at here on the board? We're getting down to the nitty-gritty here.
I mean, I answered that question. What do you guys think? Do you draft differently because of regular season and finals?
I don't, not necessarily. No. I just want to get my best collection of value. Really, that's what I'm always hunting for, is just my value picks and spots where I can pull guys up if I want. I mean, schedule's not even out yet, so for me, there's no real focus there.
Yeah, I think throughout the off season here, I'm probably gonna do a little bit of both. I'd like to try to win, both if at all possible, right? I think that's the ultimate goal, is to try to win as much money as possible here. And I think the way to do that is have some correlation for week 17. Make sure you have that so that if you do make the playoffs, you can contend with people who have been hot and heavy on that. But also try to win, or place as high as you can in the regular season. I had a couple teams last year that were floating in the, in the 150s and the 200s for a while. And, those teams would have made me a few $1,000s at the end of the season. So I think drafting for both is good. I'm just always interested to know, because now, obviously this last year, all the money was at the top in the playoffs. Now that it's allocated a little differently, I'm just very curious to know how people are going to be drafting, because, are you just going to go for the 3 million? Are you going to just try to get a little bit of money and kind of maximize your return on investment. But I think for myself, it's going to be a little bit of both. And I'm going to try to, however many teams I'm drafting, I'm going to try to do 33% now, 33% in the middle, and 33% at the end as well. And I've seen other people talk about that, trying to allocate enough, before the ADPs really set in, like now, do them in the middle, and then obviously at the end when who is probably going to be on the field more often than not. Because right now we're drafting people at I just took Terrence Marshall, just thinking that he could potentially be the one on Carolina, maybe the two, and but I mean, come August, he may not even be on the team. I mean, we have no idea. So I think there's a little uncertainty right now with the drafting, and I think it's smart to kind of allocate yourself to a little bit now, a little bit in the middle, and a little bit towards the end.
I just laugh because you're like, you might have to be on the team, and we're like, God, that's so true. I had teams like
that,
right?
Like,
too. I'm out here with like Rashad Perryman and like Tyrell Williams, and both guys get cut, and I'm like,
yeah, exactly. Like, unfortunately, right now we just have no idea. So you're just, you're pissing in the wind essentially. You're just throwing darts at the dartboard here, and but I think that's what makes drafting right now so fun is that I mean, if Terrence Marshall is the number one on Carolina, there's no way he's going to be going around 18 come August. So I think it's good for people to draft right now with that mindset.
So I broke my numbers down from what would have worked when. So last year in BBM3, I had 11 teams that was in the top 11 or 12 that were in the top 1.5%. So that would have made me, like you said, a couple $1,000s. I had no teams in the top 500, but I had so many teams in the 5 to 1,000 and a ton in the 1,000 to 10. So I probably would have made like $3+ thousand before I even got to round 2.
Mm-hmm.
Great for me. When I looked at my puppy 1s to my puppy 3s and 4s, the numbers were as expected. Puppy 1 had the least amount of teams that would have been top, 10K. Puppy 2 had the second least. Puppy 3 had the third. And I know obviously we have shown there's math to this, that the data has shown that if you wait a little bit longer, that's your ability to score more points becomes likely because you tend to have more information, right? We have way more information in August than we do in May 2nd, right? Like we're gonna have way more information, and obviously those teams will generate. Doesn't mean you'll make finals more, because there actually has been another. I think FPPC showed that like people make finals at the same rate no matter where you're at, because it's just how finals goes. But your overall points are a little bit higher. So yeah, you do lose a little bit of EV, I think, drafting now. But I did still have 4 teams in Puppy 1 that would have broke that threshold. Puppy 2 had my best scoring team that would have made me 10 grand, which I think all of us will agree that 10 grand is worth more than 5 250s, right? Like, ooh, I got $250 5 more times. And my Puppy 3, I think, had like a couple of teams that would have made me like 3 to 5 grand, right? Like, but your odds do go higher. I do think like that 33% split up is what I'm actually doing too. I'm drafting a bunch now. I'm gonna nap through June probably a little bit, and when Puppy 1, 2s come out, I'm gonna spend all my time doing the puppies, and I'm not gonna be able to do as many BBMs. I do all my BBMs fast, by the way. I don't do any slows. I take 0 slows.
Yes.
So I do 150 by hand.
Slow is hell. I can't handle it.
I think slow kills drafting. Like, it makes it unfun. It becomes like a computerized system. Like, I'm factory working now. Like, oh, I got to make my 17 Michael Thomas picks, like, it just sucks.
Yeah.
But like I said, the math does show that we do get more points the longer we wait. But I do think that it doesn't change your finals outcome. We have a friend that had 2 finals that he drafted in May in BBM. He drafted two of the teams in the finals were teams that were from May.
That's impressive.
The one guy. So something to just think about. Like, I know we're pissing away Evie a little bit drafting now, but like, are we? Like I said, I had 4 puppy.
I'm having a great time. Pissing away what?
I had like 4 puppy 1 teams, and and the total teams, like, it did gradually get better. But my puppy 2 team was the one that had the nuts scoring. So you got to put yourself in these odds, right?
Yeah. Yeah, no, definitely. So before we wrap up, you had a tweet that you tweeted a while back, and I just saw it the other day again. I thought it was hilarious. It goes, your wife says, "What is Underdog and why is money going to it?" You put, "It's a charity for underprivileged dogs." Just that made me laugh out loud. I always like to point out when things actually make me laugh, and that one was pretty funny. I used that on my wife, and she's like, "I know it's best ball. You don't have to lie to me." I'm like, I'm like, somebody else said it. It was funny, so I wanted to bring that up. It's hilarious.
So I forgot how I came up with that. I think like BBM4 had just like announced, and in my head I'm like, oh, I gotta put a lot of money into this, and I'm like, oh, my wife's gonna ask me where did our money go, and I'm like, what's the Underdog? You know, I was just joking. It's just like, ugh, and she knows I want this. But I was like, what would I tell her if she didn't know? I'd be like, oh yeah, it's like for, it's for underprivileged dogs. And I always thought the word underprivileged is always like such a trigger where if I'm like, oh my god, they're underprivileged, like we gotta
wrap
help,
it up.
you know. And it reminded me of the league, Down Doggy. It was another thing.
Yes,
to. I was like,
the league,
so
awesome
dumb.
show, great show.
I was a little surprised that went as viral as it did. It was just like a dad joke. It was like, I'm gonna make like this really dumb pun joke, and it went like
forever unclean. That's a great joke.
My virtual Twitter likes, yes.
Do you guys want to go ahead and review our teams before we head out?
Oh god, mine's embarrassing.
Yeah, sure. Here, I'll go first because again, I just tried something that I have not tried in a while, and that is doing elite QB as well as the upper echelon of tight end, which unfortunately ties your no.
Oh, okay. I saw you drafting Raven receiver, so I didn't know.
I did draft 2 of the Raven receivers. So anyway, so I went Josh Allen, Trevor Lawrence. Running backs are Travis Etienne, James Cook, Jamal Williams, Jeff Wilson, Tajay Spears, and Kenny Gainwell. Wide receivers, Steph Diggs, Amari Cooper, Zay Flowers, and Rashad Bateman. Sky Moore, Jonathan Mingo, John Mechie, Terrence Marshall. Tight ends, Kyle Pitts, Evan Ingram.
So question for you for this on their QB picks. Actually, some people may not like this because it's Josh Allen, Trevor Lawrence, and they'll say you're investing. I think it's kind of cool. I do like these kind of picks because so I like this kind of pick because when you think about what Trevor Lawrence could do, he could be elite. He could give you weeks so he might beat Josh Allen.
Yeah.
So we'll see how he goes in that case. But anyways, the other question I was asked Sky Moore. Are you in on him? I feel like that's an interesting one. I'm so scared of Sky Moore.
I am. I think there's right now, drafting right now, there's a lot of uncertainty with the Chiefs wide receivers. Is MVS going to have a hand in the offense still? Is Sky Moore going to take a step forward? Rashee Rice now on the Chiefs as well. Where's he going to fit in? There's a lot of uncertainty here. So I'm like, I want to take bullets on any of these guys. I think I like to lean towards Sky Moore a little more, as well as Rashee Rice. I know he's a rookie, and we can kind of him and haw about how rookies actually do, but in this offense, I think he could be really good. And I didn't even mention Kadarius Toney. Again, Kadarius Toney's going a lot higher than a lot of these guys, and that's another man that just finds himself on the bench a lot due to injury. So I think there's a lot of uncertainty, and I like Sky Moore. I think he has untapped potential currently.
Yeah, I'm not a Toney guy. I have a bet against hope that Michael Thomas outperformed Toney. People have told us we should have a bet who plays more games.
I was gonna say, I was like,
come on, that's a cheap shot.
I think you need to have at least a minimum game threshold to compare bets. Like each player needs to at least play 7 to 8 games for the bet to be live.
So and that was the thing I thought about with the Moore. I traded for him in Dynasty before Rashee Rice got drafted, obviously, and I'm like, but I probably should have waited. But I mean, I don't think he's actually X'd out. Like you said, it's Kadarius Toney could be anything. He doesn't have any snaps. In my opinion, he punted a return last year. That doesn't scream great to me. We gave Gibson so much crap for kick returning, right? So why don't we give for Kadarius Toney?
Right.
And then we know MVS is MVS. He's just Kobe Fleener, plays wide receiver, and
Kobe Fleener.
So
wow.
I always think,
am
I wrong though?
What a drop! Yeah, no, you nailed it on the head.
Just wide receiver Kobe Fleener. He got to play with 2 Hall of Fame quarterbacks and just never did anything with it. Andrew Luck could have been Hall of Famer. Whatever. Yeah, you get my gist. But maybe we're wrong on Sky Moore. I'm not sold on him, but I want to be wrong. I want Sky Moore to have the season, so we all can
they're all lottery tickets, in my opinion. Every single one of them. I mean, they drafted Rashee Rice. I think Richie James is just as much of a lottery ticket, to be perfectly honest with you.
God,
I feel like
James there too. Yeah,
that's what I'm saying. It's a deep group, and hell, for all I know, one of those guys could get cut or moved. I have no clue.
We saw Sky Moore get involved in the Super Bowl as well. He caught a touchdown. I think that Andy Reid is going to scheme him up, and the way I look at it is he is the same skill set as Kadarius Toney minus the injury history. So if Kadarius Toney goes out, I think they're going to really fill Sky Moore into that position, but he has standalone value regardless, even if Kadarius Toney's on the field.
Right.
Sky Moore reminds me of like those types that's like they're very in between receiver. Like he's not fully electric like Kadarius Toney, but he's also not super raw like the big body guys that just kind of like I beat you because I'm big. I think Sky Moore's like that very in middle type of guy, like probably like a better Juju, right? A more electric Juju, and that's not a bad thing.
Yeah,
like I said, I'm interested to see what he does. I find myself off of him, but like I said, I hope I'm wrong, and I actually think I am. Because I think Kadarius might not be the guy. I think this team ends up being, I think MVS is going to be on the field because he's just a deep threat. But like MVS, Kelsey, obviously, Sky Moore, Rashee Rice by end of season.
DeAndre Hopkins is going to get moved there, and it's going to ruin everything.
Oh, Hopkins is going to Buffalo. Stop it.
If Hopkins goes there, he's going to be in the second round. And we're all
my God. Yeah. You want to talk about an ADP leap.
Ooh, oh, God. Yeah. No, he'll go round one. He'll go round one. For sure.
And then, sorry, I just had to touch on that. I like the way you did your tight end picks. I hate people who take like a lead tight end and then they put that butt end that isn't Kelsey, but they'll put like anybody else and they'll put like some rando guy you never heard of, like Austin Hooper. Like that's not good because you just lose either way. I think balancing your Pittman to Ingram is really strong because then you basically have like a very small range of what your misses are. I think you get like a touchdown every week in tight end, which is amazing,
Yeah. I just hope that he signs his tender and stays on the field because I saw he's already missing, voluntary workouts. So we'll see.
Everybody misses voluntary workouts.
Yeah.
Who, Ingram?
Everybody.
Yeah, he's on the tag. That's why I think.
Yeah.
Just wants an extension. All right. I'll roll through my team pretty quick here. I've got Kirk Cousins, CJ Stroud, Sam Howell. Running back, we're looking at Derrick Henry, Antonio Gibson, Devin Singletary, Zach Evans, Gus Edwards. At receiver, Justin Jefferson, T. Higgins, DeAndre Hopkins, Terry McLaurin, Deontay Johnson, Jayon Dotson, Nico Collins, and Xavier Hutchinson, Mr. Irrelevant, last overall pick, and backed up with 2 tight ends in Dalton Schultz and Gerald Everett.
Not bad.
I like that you stacked that up. The Nico, the Schultz. That's funny with your Stroud. I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, Xavier Hutchinson, definitely a lottery ticket, but a receiver in an opportunity that feels like he can climb the depth chart like in a blink of an eye. So I like Nico coming back as just probably the most consistent player in the system in the offense. But it's pretty wide open for that group there. And then I have Schultz there as well. Singletary's mixed in. So, those are, the playing from behind narratives I got to bang the drum on. Hopefully they're just losing every single week or they're playing at least some half-ass competitive football and, garbage points it up.
I thought it was funny because you took like 2 of the guys I like on there. Like I like Singletary, I like Gus. I think they're just really strong values. People always talk about, oh, this guy lost in the draft. And, and as much as people like to draft Khalil Herbert last year, and I'm like, well, Devin Singletary and Gus are basically Khalil Herbert from last year, but 90 picks later or 70 picks later. But nobody likes them because their names aren't sexy. Like no one's looking at Devin Singletary and saying that his 900 yards were good.
And Singletary ranked at the top of explosive runs. So, I mean, again, like this is a guy that's now on a team that wants to run the ball a lot. With D'Amico Ryans coming over from Kyle Shanahan tree, I think they're going to run the ball a lot. So I think where he's going, his ADP value is through the roof with how many touches he has the potential of getting.
Right. And he has some good pass catching ability. Not amazing, but there was a reason why they used him in pass catching roles. I know he has a bad PFF grade for pass catching. I think a lot of that leans on on Josh Allen. Honestly, I think Josh Allen's just not a great passer when it comes to the short range stuff.
I mean, he's a runner himself.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
That too. But I find like that's really interesting. And Gus Edwards, like who came to replace him?
Nobody.
Yeah.
And JK is still there, and they're going to split that backfield. But I just don't think that they're trying to burn either of those guys. They were in discussions as a dark horse for Dalvin Cook. I just don't feel like they're going to be a buyer of a running back of that stature.
Yeah, so those guys I take quite a bit of.
Yep.
All right, what do you got, Davis? We'll head out of here.
I'm still admiring your 3 awesome receivers, JJ. Higgins, like this is what I was talking about. Like you grabbed the one from every team. Like, do you care if you stacked? Probably not. Like I just think like you got the one of everybody. It's so good.
Oh no, I absolutely love it, especially the Terry and DJ values. Like they're just so discounted. Like it's free money.
Well, my team is my typical like running quarterbacks. So I got Rodgers and naked Carr, which wasn't intentional by any means. It just happened. I was like, I'll get Juwan Johnson. Like, I'll get him my next pick. And like, he got snatched like immediately. I'm like, I should not have taken Dalton Kincaid, but that's fine. Whatever. Do whatever. I'll cry about it later. So Rodgers, Derek Carr, Najee Harris, Miles Sanders, James Conner. You know, this is just mid-level running backs.
Yeah.
Chase Brown, Tank Bigsby, and then James Robinson.
I like those. I mean, James Robinson's going to be the least sexy name, but I'm really interested in Tank Bigsby right now.
I feel like a lot of those plotter running backs have always been unsexy from the Patriots, right? Like Aaron Blunt was not sexy when he came back there.
No. Then he led the league in touchdowns.
Yeah. Damian Harris was not anyone's favorite until after, he started going nuts. So like, I just, you know what, like, let's assume they do a committee that they always done. And that's what Bill does, right? That's what Bill does. He does weird Bill things. And I'm going to go with it. Wide receivers are Tyreek Hill, Amon-Ra, DJ Moore, Chris Godwin, Treylon Burks. Once again, the ones of every team, right? Give or take what Chris Godwin is. Alan Lazard, MVS. Guys who I think they have contribution weeks. Stacks with my Rodgers. And then Cole Kmet, Dalton Kincaid, and then Tyler Conklin. So get me a weird jet stack. I think I wanted to get Higbee on this team. I love Higbee. I think Higbee, Conklin, and like a touchdown dependent tight end like Taysom Hill is like really strong. I feel like Conklin and Higbee are these very interesting, like, I caught 6 passes for 60 yards. Tight ends, right? These flatliners. But I couldn't get Taysom Hill, so Cole Kmet, Dalton Kincaid, and Tyler Conklin. So basic 2-6-7-3. Nothing too crazy.
Love it.
Yeah, nice stacking there. I actually like this team. I like your running backs probably a lot more than the average bear does. I'm a big Miles Sanders guy. Going to Carolina. Going back with Deuce Staley. And actually Chase Brown, very very underrated pick there. I think Cincinnati can use the shit out of him. Yep. So I really like that a lot.
Where Cincinnati likes to go a lot, just like about every single game, the red zone. Chase Brown's going to get that usage. I'm telling you, like that's a great pick.
Yeah. And if Mixon goes away, you want to talk about another person that's going to see a very large leap in ADP.
Well, we talked about this before, though. Like, even when Mixon was there, we've seen these other guys just get used.
Yeah.
Chris Evans, Samaje Perine. Like, I feel like this guy's going to have a role.
Yep. Agreed.
All right, do you guys approve? Like I said, I like the plotters, man. I love my players that can plot their way to 40 yards on a touchdown. And it's something that I've learned over the years with ETR. It's like, get those guys a high value. Like, screw the PPR, which I always agreed with anyways. This is half PPR. 6 catches is 3 points. No one cares, right? Like, but 1 touchdown is worth that many catches. So that's what I buy. I just buy high, hoping for plotters.
Right. I hear your cat in the background. Is he hungry or what's he looking
hang
for?
Out with them.
I have the same treatment from my cats, and my oldest cat just loves to go outside. So my office now is on the first floor, and there's the front door like right here. So he just comes down middle of a show while I'm working, whatever. Hey man, let me out. Let me out. It's like little Rick. Let me out.
Yeah, mine likes to hang out on my lap during the shows. He likes watching the screen.
Dr. Evil status.
I love
yes,
it.
Exactly. He's just right here. He came back up. He wanted to hang, so he's just hanging
awesome.
out. Now he's quiet because he likes lap time.
Yeah. I love it. Good stuff. All right, you got anything to share with the folks that you're working on, or something to look out for in the upcoming weeks before we head out here?
Just catch us on the shows at Road 150 on Thursdays.
That's on Hope Bishop's. Yeah, correct. Yep.
That's me and Hope's show we do on Thursday. She does her own streams on the side, and we have our collaborated show on Thursday.
Cool.
Catch us when we can there. I am doing some articles. I'll be doing some videos for basically some beginner guides. We're super early in best ball, and as much as like people think that some of us are very touts, like, oh my god, that guy's so sharp, he did so well last year. I'll tell you right now, like, a lot of my teams suck. Like like a lot of them suck, and we got better over the years. Like, if you look at a lot of my big board teams last year or the before this year, or sorry, not last year, but the year before, like BBM2 styles, I lost every team. I played like 7 and I wasn't remotely close. We get better, and there's a lot of beginners in this game. We're coming from redraft, we're coming from dynasty, we're coming from a different format. I think beginner guides are going to be a thing that we need to really get on. So that's what I'm going to do this year. I want to make sure that people start winning. We'll get good advance rates. 16% is the floor. We got to go above that.
Yes.
Stick it to Underdog. I love it. Andrew, anything to share?
No, man. No, I think we have another show coming up Thursday.
Yes, sir. Yep.
Yeah. So catch us Thursday. Make sure you're tuning in. Obviously, everyone watching a show in the beginning of May is a sicko, just like the rest of us. So we don't have to tell them. But obviously, tuning into the show helps you realize who you should be drafting now, who you should be fading now, because these ADPs are going to change massively throughout the year.
Yep, absolutely. We always have our pulse on the ADP market, on the player market in fantasy. So come ride with us. Go to sportsgamblingpodcast.com, smash the fantasy tab, and we've got all the good stuff for you. Whether me and Andrew are bringing you best ball, Dave and Brad are bringing you Dynasty, or Emerson with Dynasty as well. We got Gary Van Dyke on IDP. We've got all the good stuff. So come ride with us. Be sure to smash the like button here on YouTube and follow us on Spotify and Apple by downloading and leaving a positive review. Take care, be well, be good. And if you can't be good, be good at it. We'll see you.